Hola amigos, Jim and Mai here from Spanish and Go, and we've been living in Puerto Rico for about 2 years now. And we wanted to make a video real quick about some of the things we wish we had known about Puerto Rico before we moved.
So consider this like a reflection on 2 years living in Puerto Rico. We have discovered that Puerto Rico has some very, very beautiful places that you can't find on a map.
That's right, there are tons of places that you just need to go out and explore for yourself or meet some locals and talk to them about where some of their favorite places are to explore. And that's how you really find some cool, magical places on this beautiful island.
We have discovered that what people outside of Puerto Rico know about Puerto Rico is the disasters, right? Like they know of Puerto Rico because of the hurricanes, because of the earthquakes. And now that we have been here for 2 years, we've discovered all of these things that people outside of Puerto Rico don't know about. And that's pretty cool.
Here we are playing Frogger again. The next thing we wish we had known about is the traffic here. There are so many cars on this island that sometimes I think that it could sink from all the weight, because traffic is insane here in San Juan especially. Yeah, not necessarily in the rest of the island, but in the metropolitan area, it can get insane. Just the other day, it took me about 20 minutes to go 2 blocks just because the way the street is set up, you have to take a U-turn just to get across the street, and traffic was just bumper to bumper. That's just something I didn't expect at all before we moved here.
And with that, with traffic also comes the potholes.
Yes.
So many of them and so big, right?
Yeah, the potholes are insane, especially on the street we've been living on this year. For months, it was unrepaired, and it was practically like a jacuzzi-sized
Like multiple jacuzzis.
pothole. Yeah. It was terrible, and these things can sneak up on you and destroy your car. Some of them are frightening when they catch you off guard, because it almost feels like you're in an accident when it happens sometimes. There have been multiple times where we go over a pothole unexpectedly, and the jolt from doing so just triggers our turn signal, and like the sunglass holder falls out of place. It's crazy. I've never ever experienced something like that before.
Another thing that we discovered about Puerto Rico is all of their creativity with how to cook bananas or plantains.
Yes.
There are so many recipes in which people here in Puerto Rico use bananas. Like we've tried a banana soup, we've had banana or plantain sandwiches, we've had tostones, we've had mofongo. There are so many things that you can make with plantains or bananas that we had no idea.
That's right. There's a banana recipe for breakfast, lunch, and dinner here on the island. Guineo is just one of like 5 or 6 words we know of for banana in Spanish here. Every time I think about how many words there are for banana in Puerto Rico, I think about what they say about Eskimos having however many words for snow. It's like, it's just such a part of the culture. Another thing we weren't expecting when we got to the island, and maybe we should have, is the corruption. Now, here's just one example of the corruption we're talking about. Expediters are a major thing on the island if you want to get things done quickly. The question becomes, how is it that they're able to get things done quickly when the average person going through the normal process, it can take days or months to get something done?
And a lot of the times it's because they know someone who works in this company and they can get things moving faster than a regular person could, right? And I mean, this is not particular to Puerto Rico. I feel like every Spanish-speaking country in the world has a little bit of this. Maybe it's because of the Spanish conquest. I don't know.
It just comes from the Spanish culture.
I know. I don't know. Maybe because like when you are taken by another country, you try to be like rebellious against their law. And so you find other ways to process things, or to, you know what I mean?
To get things done?
Things done, and to be like, I'm not gonna follow your rules. I'm gonna go with my friend who's gonna help me, and he's gonna do it faster.
Yeah, so
something like that.
There are people on the island who must work extra close with some government officials to get things done a little faster for a little extra fee, of course. Now, before we continue on with the rest of our list, it should go without saying that if you're going to travel to a Spanish-speaking country, you should learn at least a little bit of Spanish before you go, which is why we're excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Lingoda. Now, if you've been following us for a while, you know that I'm a huge fan of Lingoda's Sprint promotion, where you can get 100% refund on 3 months of Spanish classes with them. Now, they're having another one coming up, and all you need to do is take 1 hour of classes every single day for 3 months, and you can get a 100% refund on your money. I have completed the Super Sprint myself, and it was definitely worth the effort. The Lingoda promotion comes in 2 flavors. There's a Super Sprint, which I just told you about, 30 classes every month for 3 months, and you can get a 100% refund on your money. Or there's the regular Sprint, where if you just take 15 classes each month for 3 months, you can be eligible for up to a 50% refund on your money. Now, the next promotion starts on January 15th of 2021, but you're going to need to sign up before December 28th of this year, 2020. And if you use our voucher code WIN22, you can get $11 off of your deposit. Sign up using our special link in the description of this video and let me know how it goes. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Another thing we weren't expecting when we got here, and maybe we feel it a little bit more because we have a YouTube channel, but the xenophobia here is present. This doesn't mean that everybody is afraid of foreigners or has negative feelings about foreigners, but there certainly are some people who do. And I can already anticipate the comments about this one. Yes, you will find people who are xenophobic all over the world, but I just wasn't expecting it here, since we've never felt anything like that. Well, I could say I've never felt anything like that before in Mexico.
Yeah, I feel like people have their ideas and they take them very strongly. Like they either love tourists and they want people to come to the island and enjoy and put money into their economy, who is falling apart pretty much. Yeah. And there's the other part of people who simply hate everything that has to do with Americans or US Americans or anyone outside of Puerto Rico, and they want to keep Puerto Rico for themselves. And I think it's like I see it in Mexico. People also get mad when a bunch of people from the US move to Mexico and they turn places like San Miguel de Allende into little gringo towns, and that happens everywhere. But that doesn't mean that every single person coming from outside of the country is going to change your culture, right? A lot of people come here and they want to participate in the things happening here on the island. They want to learn, they want to showcase Puerto Rico to the rest of the world, and some people just don't like it.
Yeah, I just wasn't anticipating the flood of comments we got from people when we made the video about why we moved here, about how we're just coming to gentrify the island and how we're only coming for the benefits and we should just go home because we don't belong here. And it's really discouraging because we've met a lot of people in person here in Puerto Rico who are extremely friendly, who have helped guide us around and understand a little bit about the politics here, a little bit about the history, and I get it. Some people don't understand what our intentions are, and maybe they're just used to foreigners coming in and sort of taking over. And I can't blame them when you look at the history of the island. Nobody here voted to be part of the United States. So, in the history of Puerto Rico, same with when Spain came here, Puerto Ricans never really had a voice of what they wanted for their island.
Mm-hmm. And it's the case until now also, probably, right? Like, they belong to the US, so I feel like it's really sad, like the history of Puerto Rico, because they have never really had control over their country. And I feel like independence is something that every country should experience, right? Like you should be able to have your own laws, to represent your culture in every way. And it's just sad that Puerto Rico doesn't get to have that, or has never had that.
Right. Since moving to the island, we've definitely learned why a lot of people refer to Puerto Rico as the oldest colony in the world. There's no voting representation for the island stateside. There's one non-voting representative. People here cannot vote for president. On paper, sure, you can say that Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States, but in many ways it feels like a colony.
Another thing that we noticed that we were not expecting, or that we were not used to seeing maybe in the US or in Mexico, is how many, what are they called?
Dispensaries?
Dispensaries are around here, and how open people are about the use of cannabis for medicinal purposes.
That's right. It's actually really easy to get your medical cannabis card here. They will allow you to get one for a variety of symptoms, anything from pain to, we have to cross.
People waiting there. Put on your mask.
Okay. You can get a medical cannabis license for a variety of symptoms, including pain or glaucoma, or what's the other one? When you can't sleep?
Insomnia. Stress, anxiety.
Yeah, pretty much all of these things are symptoms that would potentially make you eligible for getting a medical cannabis license here. We're just not expecting how liberal they are about it here on the island.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing we weren't expecting is the bureaucracy for pretty much getting anything done. Even something as simple as getting your driver's license here on the island can be extremely complicated, and I can see why people are willing to pay a little bit more to an expediter to get things done faster. For most things, they're going to ask you for your social security card, possibly even your birth certificate, and 2 forms of proof of residence, and they have to be recent documents. So that example applies to just getting your license, and they also require a certified history of your driver's license or your driving history from your state, and a bunch of other hoops that you have to jump through, including a special exam, a physical exam that you have to take with a doctor before you go and get your license here in Puerto Rico.
Yes, so everything takes a little bit longer to process, and it's also a little bit more expensive because all of the other things that you have to do, like you have to pay for the medical exam and all of these copies of things that you have to get. So yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah.
And also, like, it depends on who you ask advice on something, right? Like sometimes you ask a person, where can I go do this? What do I need? And they'll tell you something completely different to what your friend told you. So yeah, I feel like things are a little bit confusing in that regard.
Yeah, there's not always a lot of organization, and you get a lot of different opinions about how to do things.
Yes.
Another thing we weren't really expecting, and we got a few comments about, were about the tax benefits here. Now, we actually recently moved our business to the island, and we waited almost a year before we did so. So even like the first year that video was up about why we moved here, we hadn't moved our business here. And what we've discovered since we actually have moved the business here is that for the most part, the tax benefits here really do mostly benefit people who are really bringing in the dough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you already have a bunch of money, then yes, you are more likely to take advantage of the tax breaks than a person who doesn't make all that much money.
Right. You could move your business here and benefit from the 4% tax exemption that Puerto Rico allows new businesses here, or qualifying new businesses, but you also have to factor in all of the different fees that are required to maintain your good standing with those exemptions as well.
Yeah, like there were a lot of things that we didn't know about that process that took us by surprise, and that were also more money that we had to spend. Like we had to have another address for the business here, and we're used to our home being our address.
Right, and that address also has to have special permits to be able to operate a business at.
Yes, so that couldn't be our house.
Right.
Our apartment. So yes, a lot of little things that, again, people don't tell you right away, but then at the end it's just a little bit more money or more paperwork.
Right.
Another thing that we were not expecting is how patrioticos Puerto Ricans are. We have never seen so many flags of a country just on a regular, like a random day outside.
Yeah.
And it's really funny, like when we first moved here and we started going to places, you know, just like a waterfall here and there, we would always hear someone like yelling, "Soy boricua, pa que tú lo sepas." And we were like, wow, that sounds a little bit like angry. Why do you have to yell that? But it's just a thing that people like to say here to show that I'm proud, you know, like I am from this beautiful island and I'm proud, and I'm gonna say it out loud.
Yeah, I can't imagine going anywhere else and being like, oh, I'm American and proud, is like the saying or lema. What's lema in English? I don't remember. The motto. And you hear it all the time here. People will just shout it out loud because they're so proud of being from this island.
Yes. And they wear their flag everywhere. Like you see cars with like stickers on them, on their masks,
and
on
Puerto
their
Rican
shirts, on everything. Like their phone cases have the Puerto Rican flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were not expecting that. I mean, it's not a bad thing.
No,
they
not
love
at
the
all.
Country. Another thing that we also were not expecting about Puerto Rico is how full the stores are all the time. Like no matter what time of the day, no matter what store you go to, it's gonna be crowded.
Mm-hmm. We got someone coming up here. You should know it's still polite in Latin American countries or Spanish-speaking countries to have the guy closer to the road. That's something I learned early on when dating my.
Yeah, sometimes we forget about that because we're not all that tradicionales.
Yeah.
So we were talking about how busy stores are most of the times.
Yeah, it's really impressive, especially during the pandemic, which I can understand. I think a lot of stores around the United States and probably around the world were busy because of the panic associated with the pandemic. But on any given day in Puerto Rico, even with no pandemic, there are tons of people at the stores. And I thought that was just really surprising because I always heard that Puerto Rico is a really poor country. So I thought, how could the stores always be busy if everybody's so poor? But it's really impressive that you can go to the store at pretty much any time of day and it'll be packed full of people.
And it's not just like the grocery store, like malls are always also very busy. Places where you get your nails done, the barber shops are like everywhere. It's always busy.
Yep.
Yes.
Another thing we weren't really expecting about the island is how many beautiful beaches there are around the island. Now, obviously, Puerto Rico is an island. It's gonna have a lot of beaches, but there are just so many absolutely gorgeous beaches that you can go out and search for on your own and discover for yourself, and oftentimes there won't even be anyone there when you get there.
Mm-hmm. But a really sad thing about these beautiful beaches is that sometimes they have a lot of garbage around there. Like people go there and don't bring their garbage back with them, and they just leave everything behind, and that's a little sad. I mean, I feel like that's very common in Mexico too. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
Why can't people just pick up their trash?
Yeah, so we try to do our part when we're at the beach to pick up a little bit, but sometimes there's just way too much.
Another thing that took us by surprise when we experienced this was the people clapping when the plane lands, either here in Puerto Rico or if you get on a plane here and then you land somewhere else, people clap.
Pues mi gente, llegamos a la isla más bella del mundo, San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it seems now to me like a very Puerto Rican thing, but since we've mentioned this in another video, other people have commented that this also happens sometimes in the Dominican Republic and some other countries. I think it used to be more common decades ago, and possibly even in maybe some parts of the military where this is common, but it was new to us. So we always know we've made it to Puerto Rico safely when everybody claps on the plane when we land here.
And if we travel on a plane from another country, it feels a little bit like sad when you don't hear people clapping, right?
Yeah.
Like landing in Mexico from the US, it's like, where is the clapping?
Yeah.
So we now have adopted this. I mean, maybe we don't clap, but we are used to hearing that.
Another thing we weren't quite expecting was the perfect weather just about year-round. I'm from Minnesota, so getting away from the cold was something that I really wanted, but we didn't realize until we got here that the weather is just great pretty much year-round, except for the summer months.
Yes, when it gets super hot, especially if you're not used to it, it feels like you're in an oven.
Yeah, but we've always made sure that we found apartments to live in that are well ventilated, and we've never had to use air conditioning ever since we moved here. And you also have to watch out for hurricane season, of course, but aside from that, it's beautiful weather year-round here.
Now, another thing that we noticed when we moved here was the huge gap between the people who have a lot of money and they have huge mansions by the beach, and then the other side of the coin where people are begging for money on the streets.
Yeah, there's a huge divide between the rich and the poor, and you can see this in different neighborhoods where some houses are massive and others are completely abandoned or maybe are even missing their roof. There are still houses here that are damaged and still not repaired from Hurricane Maria, and a lot of people just don't have the resources to be able to fix their houses. Another thing we weren't expecting are the number of fruits and vegetables on the island. There's a massive variety and tons of different foods you get to try if you look around and know what to look for.
Yes, there are many fruits that I had never heard of before, like hobos and the guama, things that we haven't even tried, but we have heard from, and we can't wait to try because these are things that you can't find anywhere else but here.
Yeah, there's also a ton of root vegetables that I'd never even heard of before, like ñame, for example.
Yautía.
Yautía.
Yeah. Yuca. Like, I've heard of it, but I don't know of any recipes in Mexico or the US where people use these things. And here they use it for like soups and stuff that are very common here in the gastronomia of the country. We were almost done, but the GoPro died on us. So we had to switch to the phone.
So for our last thing that we were not expecting when we moved to the island is the variety of tropical Caribbean music that you can hear here.
Yeah, the traditional music of Puerto Rico, like bomba and plena, and then of course the salsa, which we knew about, but it's just such a big part of the culture. And I honestly had never heard of bomba and plena until we visited the island and until we went to some festivals here. And that is really cool because it's something that people outside of Puerto Rico don't know about and they get to experience when they visit here.
So this was just a list that we came up with after 2 years of living here on the island. Obviously there's some advantages and disadvantages, some things that surprise us in a good way, other things not so much, but that's our take after 2 years here on the beautiful island of Puerto Rico.
And we decided to make this video because we get a lot of comments from people who are planning on moving here or who just moved to the island and they are looking for answers about things. They want to know if it's common, if things that they are experiencing we also experience when moving here. So this is for all of you.
So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more travel and Spanish tips, and remember,
El camino es el destino.
the journey is the destination. Nos vemos pronto.
Adiós.